Welcome back to more wow drama stories where you get all the drama from a safe distance. In story number 1, a man wants to know if he is the a-hole for cutting off his niece's college fund because of what she said about him. In story 2, a woman asks, am I the a-hole for not arriving to my co-worker's shift early because she wants to go to church? The timestamp for story 2 is in the description box. Let's get on with it. Let's get to story number 1. OP writes, I'm just going to be direct and quick. I, male 35, have 2 sisters that I'm close with. I also have a niece, Leah. Leah's 16, and after my ex-wife decided to split up and divorce due to infertility problems that lasted for 5 years, I started a college fund for Leah to help her go to her chosen college. That was in 2019. Now I visit my mother's home, where my sister and Leah are living, every week to spend the weekend together. This past weekend, I was asleep upstairs, while my mother, my sister, and Leah were in the kitchen. I came downstairs to grab a glass of water and heard my sister talking about my ex-wife expecting a baby with her new husband. This struck a nerve, and I kind of froze from shock. I then heard Leah react to the news repeatedly saying, I told you so, I told you so. Then explained she's always thought that I was the one with a problem for not being able to have a baby with my ex, but that I was, quote, afraid, unquote, to admit due to fragile masculinity. I could not believe what she said, but what made it worse is her following statement about how my ex was smart to get a divorce before it was too late. I went upstairs and into the room and shut the door and stayed there for hours. Mom and sister saw me about to leave and insisted to know what the problem was. I didn't want to argue, but I told them that I heard what Leah said about me. Leah stopped eating and got quiet. My sister tried to play dumb, but I told her I heard their entire conversation about my ex-wife and her pregnancy news. My sister tried to backpedal, saying Leah is just a kid who doesn't know much about this stuff and was just, quote, spouting nonsense, unquote. I told them that I don't want to talk about it, and they refused to let me leave, but I left eventually. I later sent my sister a text telling her about how hurt and devastated I was because of what Leah said, and told her I will no longer be responsible for funding her education. My sister kept trying to call, then texted saying Leah didn't mean what she said, and offered to make her apologize. But I didn't feel comfortable being in the same room with someone who blamed me for something that was out of my control and something that literally turned my life upside down. My mother tried to get me to come over so we could talk, saying Leah doesn't deserve me turning my back on her like that. Wow, OP, that must have been really hard to hear that, to hear the news about your ex and then to hear what your family had to say about it. Let's get some comments from the community on this. Someone says, clean, not the a-hole. Generosity stops when you are unkind to the hand that feeds you. What a surprise. Sorry about your loss. Edit. I've read before that if you don't let people be angry at you after you have wronged them, you are just taking more away from them. Leah needs to learn that. So do your family members. Her age excuses her behavior, barely, but not the consequences that follow. Someone else writes, not the a-hole. Why haven't her parents got a college fund going for her? You are not responsible to pay for any kid that isn't yours. If I were you, I would take a lovely long vacation on the money that you saved. Someone else asks, info, did you not get tested after 5 years to see if it was sperm related? I mean, Was your ex going through a bombardment of tests and infertility treatments that could have been avoided had you been tested? And we have an update from OP. So this went off unexpectedly. I read a lot of insightful comments, but couldn't keep up, I'm sorry. I haven't seen my sister nor Leah after what happened, but they are still trying to contact me, which means there's still room for a discussion. And so I've decided to go see them tomorrow, sit down together and have a long conversation about this. Now, I admit I'm not the type of person that feels comfortable talking about what's bothering me, especially when it comes to sensitive topics. But like some of you have said, this is my family, my niece and her future. I admit that I was mad when I told my sister about the college fund cancellation. I love Leah so much and see her as my own daughter. Unfortunately, her dad, my brother-in-law, is deceased. And so I understand losing a parent at a young age and relate to the kind of hurt she carries inside. I lost my father in an accident when I was 11, and I think that sitting down and talking things out is the best option before I make any decisions. Hopefully, this will get resolved soon. And I'm so sorry for the long ETA, but I just wanted to let you guys know. I might update on what happens after we talk, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Also, one more thing to clarify, both my ex-wife and I were having these fertility issues, both sides. But since my ex-wife got pregnant soon after her new marriage, then my family thought that I was the problem originally. It is what it is, and I'm learning not to let words get in my head so easily. I'm not mad at anyone. I'm just trying to move on with my life like anybody else. Well, OP, I wish you the very best, and of course you have the right to move on with your life, as you said, like everybody else. On to story number 2. OP writes, so I work in home care, and basically I leave when the next person in schedule shows up. A certain coworker always gets scheduled after me, and she arrives 2 hours late, at minimum. 1 hour on a special day. Never on time. You cannot leave the patients unattended, and you don't get paid overtime, so I stay extra for free. I've spoken to my boss and he says it's church related, so it's basically okay. Lately, she's been asking me to come in early. I usually get there 8 and she's asking me to come 5 for, quote, church reasons, unquote. I just ignore her and don't show up until 8. Recently, she pulled crap where she would just leave at 5, 6-ish and text me saying, quote, I left, unquote. Meaning I'd have to hurry my ass to the job to make sure the patients won't leave the house or hurt themselves. It's absolutely ridiculous. And before anyone asks, our bosses won't respond to our messages and calls most of the time. I spoke with her the next time I saw her, saying what she did was absolutely stupid, and she blamed me for not coming earlier. Am I the a-hole for not coming earlier for her shift? Wow, OP, no, you are not the a-hole, not at all. This is something that really gets my blood boiling, is when people hide behind their church, their religion, and use that as an excuse to behave very badly. But let's hear what other people have to say. Someone writes, I work in management in healthcare. This is abuse. Please whistleblow. If my staff pulled crap like this and I ignored it, they're expected to escalate to my bosses. If it still gets ignored, then report it to the local authority/regulator. Depending on the country you're in, if something terrible happened and your service users were harmed, you'd be liable as well for not reporting. So please report. Someone else writes, not the a-hole. Though I think your bosses don't care because they're relying on you to clean up her mess. Please stop. Honestly, I'd find somewhere else to work because you shouldn't give away your work for free. Your company owes you money for this, and you should try contacting local agencies devoted to patient safety and/or unfair labor practices, or you'll end up doing this forever. Do not come early. Seriously, screw this person. Work only the hours you are assigned. Someone else says, so she's leaving someone in need for church. Isn't that the whole point of church? Not the a-hole at all. Is there some sort of board or governing authority you can report her/the company to? This seems totally unacceptable. And another person comments, not the a-hole. Church or not, that's completely irresponsible and putting people at risk. She's also not working her full shift. And let's get a final comment. Leaving someone to potentially get hurt or even die to attend church. How ironic. Or not the a-hole. Well, that's the end of this installment of Wow Drama Stories. I hope you enjoyed these stories. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when I upload again. Until we meet again, wishing you a drama-free life.